you very much for having us. My name is Ben Widowson. I'm from Lightworks. We're based in the UK. And I'm really excited to have joined with me Felix from Hackrod. We've been working on a really exciting project over the last few weeks. And we're excited to show you some of the results. So I'm going to let Felix start.
Sure. I've just realized how angry I look on the photo that was sent through. I'm not really that angry. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background to Hackrod. As you can tell, I'm from California. And I've been there 15 years. I used to work for Hot Wheels and had a lot of fun doing that. And Hackrod was really born out of some of the work I did with my co-founder, Mouse McCoy, at Hot Wheels, and was inspired by the idea that kids with a dream when they play with a Hot Wheels car should be able to grow up to make that dream a reality. Hackrod was formed, it's in the name. Half of it was about California hot rod culture and combined with California, Silicon Valley hack culture, hacking culture, tech culture. And really the idea is we want to democratize the world of transport design and mobility design. As most of you now know, the auto industry is going through probably its greatest disruption since its inception over 100 years ago. Electrification of vehicles, autonomous vehicles, ride share, and micromobility segments are changing the way people will consume vehicles around the world, and consequently, the way that we segment mobility will open up whole new worlds of mobility solutions. We're already seeing it in my hometown of Venice Beach, where the Bird and Lime scooters have taken over the streets and opened up an entirely new way of getting around a city to people. The other thing that we know, outside of the new segments and new ways of travel, is we've got a new consumer. Today's consumer expects everything to work like a social network or a video game. And when you look at Generation Z, all of the things that inspired me to get into vehicle design don't interest them at all. I can sit around making glamorous sports cars as much as I want, but the reality is, faced with a new future, a new consumer is going to want to interact with their mobility solutions, whether it's an electric scooter or a ride-share autonomous vehicle or something purely for leisure, in a very different way. And the problem with that is that 21st century or 20th century industry paradigms are fundamentally out of step with the way that social networks and games work. So Hackrod's mission is to democratize design and manufacturing. And we're going to build what we're calling a factory as a social network. It's basically the gamification of design and manufacturing, and making use of all of the fantastic technologies that Industry 4.0 is bringing to us. Things like connected factories, distributed manufacturing, 3D printing, on-demand manufacturing. And the way that that's going to work is we're stringing together some fairly big partners. We partnered last year with Siemens. We've got a fairly aggressive and rather large project going on with Siemens at the moment. We're in the middle of talking to UPS about handling logistics, and our part of the deal is to build a video game that allows you to literally configure and design vehicles, and once you're happy with them, send them through to manufacture on demand. Now, as we approach that goal, we realize we have a few problems. The idea of putting on a VR headset and configuring a vehicle in the way that you want it and then manufacturing it is something which we believe is actually it's a feasible idea. But one of the big problems we have is moving heavy CAD stored in the cloud, turning it into lightweight files that a consumer can manipulate, and then spitting it back out again into a bill of materials that rolls on down a logistics system and eventually delivers the vehicle that you want. And this is where our work with Ben and the guys at Lightwork with their Slipstream product really got exciting for us. Traditionally, CAD requires a lot of manual prep. If you want, the car we're going to show you is about 50% baked. It's a development project. But in the old world, to change even all the basic CAD into VR files just to do a review was weeks and weeks of work. If we're going to use it as a consumer-facing portal into the world of design and manufacturing, the visual quality needs to be very good. The environments need to be familiar, so you're not put off by the world and the lighting with which you're viewing it. And multiplayer collaboration up until this point has been very expensive. Like, we were suddenly sitting around realizing we had to buy 2 suites of VRED to just put 2 people in an environment. And as a startup in California, the amount of money it would cost us just for 2 seats was not feasible. So we were very excited when we met Ben and the guys, and we're here to show you a little bit of the work we've been doing with them.
Thanks, Felix. So the product we've been developing over the last few years is called Slipstream, and fundamentally it's a very simple solution to a very complex problem. So what we're trying to do is to make a simple automated pipeline that's end-to-end so that anybody can push a button, get their native CAD data into Unreal to do things like a VR design review. So the main components of it are a very simple way to say, here's my data, and here's where I want it to go. So a simple application. All the kind of automated data prep tools that everybody talks about, and I'll go into a few more of those in a minute. And then the personalized experience at the other end. And in this case, it's a VR design review experience in the Hackrod warehouse. So I'll go into this in a bit more detail, but for this project, we're taking in a mixture of alias data for the bodywork, some NX data for a quite interesting chassis that these guys have been working on, and some solid edge files. And we're pushing it through into the final experience. So what I'm going to do is hand back to Felix. He's going to quickly talk through what we've done in the experience in a quick video.
All right, so we were going to do a live VR demo, but we discovered the drawbacks of the future is infrared interference. So we're showing you on video. This demo is there for you to play with in the hall after these presentations. What you see here is our concept car. This car is actually it's more of a proof of concept of an entirely new way to design and manufacture complex things like automobiles. Every single piece of this was designed and built with the latest technologies available to us. We're about 50% there, but what you're actually looking at here is CAD. It wasn't modeled to be specifically a lightweight file for a game engine. This is actually our development CAD. All of the surfaces are final. We have a chromoly chassis that was developed in solid edge. We've got CAD from various sources for Corvette suspension. The good thing about California is there's a lot of Teslas around, and the even better thing about Teslas is they're not autonomous yet, and humans drive them, so it's very easy to find motors in junkyards. And so with true California hot rod style, we hacked a Tesla. The chassis you see there is our first pass at a full generative 3D printed chassis. One of the things we've been working very hard on with one of our facilities in Colorado is generating the first large-scale metal additive machine, and the hope is that within the next year, we will have this concept chassis fully engineered and printed. But what you're seeing here is a working file. This is the stage that the engineering file of the car is at. One of the big things we're into is consumer as co-creator. So this car is being developed to be configured in many, many different ways so that if you want to purchase the sports car of your dreams, you can decide what kind of a front end you want. You can change the lights, change the grille, actually change the styling of your car, so every car will be unique. And then once, of course, you're happy with your configuration, we're back into the replica of the Hackrod studio in Ventura, where you can share your vehicle to social media, you can do some surface review, double check that you're absolutely happy with it before you press buy now and send it through to the manufacturing logistics network. And obviously also you're seeing here multi-person interaction. Like if you need to convince your better half that you want to spend $250,000 on a hand-built sports car, then they're going to also want to get into the VR experience with you before you get your checkbook out.
So everybody's seen cool VR demos in the past, and normally when you ask the question about how the data got in there, people go a bit quiet and sheepish, because normally the answer is it took a number of people, a number of weeks to make it look that good, and what we're really trying to solve is getting rid of all that manual work, freeing up the time of the designers to do the more useful, interesting work that they're employed to do. So we're just going to go into a little bit more detail about how this works. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a simple application at the front end for specifying the data that you want to bring in. You can do things like pre-flight checks to check that everything's got materials, change the quality settings, whether you want a dynamic or a baked experience at the other end. And you can also access previous runs of the pipeline. So if you want to review last week's work or the week before, you can go back and check on that. The middle part of the process is the bit that everybody gets interested in, but it's really the bit that we're trying to obscure and hide from the end user. It's all the processes that people do manually today, like tessellation, decimation, creating LODs, merging parts, managing variants, doing UV unwrapping, all these things that people in here will be quite familiar with, but probably don't want to be doing on a day-to-day basis. So what we do for customers like Hackrod is we understand what the result they want is, what the source data looks like, and effectively write a pipeline to allow them to process their data repeatably and consistently to get the result they're after. And then the final bit of what we're offering is what you saw in the video. It's the end experience. And we're really hearing from all the customers we're working with that the personalization is the key part of this. And by that I mean creating environments that are familiar to them. So whether it's the salt flat plains or the warehouse that Hackrod are synonymous with, or a custom set of materials or colorways, part variants, and even down to enabling teams across the world to collaborate. So Hackrod, for instance, have guys in the UK and the US, and the goal is to allow them to all jump into the same experience seamlessly. So in speaking to a number of the companies in the room, including Hackrod and some other guys, we hear a huge range of different potential use cases for this. Being a relatively small team in Sheffield, we've chosen to focus our energy on the early kind of styling and design phase of the product lifecycle. Felix has already alluded to wanting to create a kind of customer experience to allow them to design. But we're hearing use cases for getting heavy CAD data into experiences like that all across the engineering, planning, and sales experience of the product lifecycle. But as I say, being a small company, there's only so much resource we can commit to some of these things. So as of Monday, I believe, and there's a few of my team in the audience, we're very excited to announce that we will officially be part of Siemens PLM, which is great because it means we're going to be able to deliver this vision more quickly and to more people, and help integrate into some of the cool tools that Siemens have for CAD and PLM. So with all that said and done, that's the end of our presentation. We have a live demo of the video over in the exhibit hall, which we'd love you all to come and have a look at. So I look forward to speaking to you all after the sessions. Thank you.